Hello friends, you are on the Ruslan Belov channel, and we continue to analyze the situation on the front lines with you in our daily format. Yesterday, Trump announced that next week, in the very near future, he will have a meeting with Zelensky. Or rather, he has summoned Zelensky to Washington for negotiations. In general, interesting content awaits us next week, as they say. But for now, let's continue our review of the situation on the front. Let's open the map together. So undoubtedly, the biggest news of yesterday was the capture of the city of Toretsk by the Russian army. We will definitely return to this, but first a few words need to be said about the Kursk region, because I know many are worried and concerned. In short, yesterday the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, did not undertake any serious attacks, possibly having assessed their losses from February 6th or for some other reasons. But what we currently have is that the total area taken by the AFU is about 7 square kilometers. The number of troops currently trying to dig in the forest belts is just under 100 people. At the same time, as I already mentioned, the AFU did not attempt to advance or even bring up reserves. That is, the infantry they deployed during the offensive on February 6th is now on its own. On the other hand, the Russian army spent the entire yesterday conducting airstrikes on concentrations of Ukrainian armed forces, both in the Kursk and Sumy regions. As for the AFU infantry in the forest belts, strikes are primarily carried out by drones and artillery along the front line. On this section, no significant changes have been recorded over the past day. The AFU controls the Kutor-Kolmaki forest plantations in the area of Cherkasskaya Konopelka, as well as Fanasievka and the surrounding forest plantations. That's essentially it. No attempts were made to break through to the village of Ulanok or to Ruskaya Konopelka. Now let's move on to other sections of the front. Since we are still in the north, let's talk a bit about the Kharkiv region and then move on to the main topic. Yesterday, I briefly touched on this at the end, but now I will repeat it in more detail. While all attention was focused on the Kursk region, roughly equivalent changes occurred in the Kharkiv region. That is, in the Kursk region, the AFU took 7 square kilometers, losing a significant amount of equipment and personnel. Meanwhile, Russian troops made a breakthrough, let's measure it, about 3.5 kilometers from Novomlinsk to Figolevka. Importantly, they took not only the village itself, but also the heights on both sides. The total area of the breakthrough is roughly equivalent to the territory taken by the AFU in the Kursk region. The key point here is that not a single piece of equipment was lost, because the entire breakthrough was made and secured by infantry alone. What will happen next? There are 2 directions. First, from Figolevka further to Petra Ivanovka, and then to Kolodeznoye. But first, to advance towards Petra Ivanovka, it is necessary to take the heights on the left, and then the movement will continue. There is also a second direction, closing the pocket that has formed between the 2 pincers, that is, along the line of Dolgonkaya and Kuchkovka. Then the distance from the front line to the river will be almost 7 kilometers. This is still not enough for completely safe pontoon crossings, but it is significantly better than the current situation, where the distance from the river is 3 to 3.5 kilometers. Now let's move on to Toretsk. Yesterday, the Russian Ministry of Defense officially announced that the city has come under the control of the Russian army. Toretsk itself covers an area of 55 square kilometers, and the entire agglomeration, which includes the city of New York, Nelipovka, Zalizna, and Pevnichnaya Druzhba, makes up the Toretsk agglomeration, covering 139 square kilometers. The battle for the agglomeration began at the end of June. Let's look at the chronicle of these events on the map to see how this advance unfolded. To reiterate, the battles for the agglomeration began on June 22nd, and the battles for the city itself began on August 23rd. Thus, the battle for Toretsk lasted from August 23rd, 2024 to February 7th, 2025, approximately 5.5 months. On the AFU side, the city was defended by a group of 40,000 people. Nevertheless, despite the mines and slag heaps, they failed to hold it. What will happen next after Toretsk has been taken by the Russian army? Where will the movement go? But first, let's look at panoramic footage of the city. As you can see, the city is in ruins. Not quite a lunar landscape like Volchansk, but still it couldn't have been otherwise. The battles were fought for every street, every house, even every apartment. Fierce fighting for almost half a year. Now the question is, what will happen next? It is clear that Toretsk absorbed a large number of forces on both sides, and now these resources are essentially freed up. First of all, the fighting will now focus on the suburbs still controlled by the Ukrainian armed forces. Moreover, if on one flank, Russian troops took Krimskoye in parallel with Toretsk, and now, to ensure stability, they need to clear Dakhnoye and take Andreevka, then on the western flank, there is still a powerful fortified area in the form of Shcherbanivka and Petrivka. These areas, as well as Yekaterinovka and Klebanbaik across the river, will be the main focus in the coming week. Further, there are two options. Either movement towards Konstantinovka, which is not far, only 12 kilometers, or movement to the west, towards the Pokrovsk grouping. Given that movement has already begun from Vodyain II towards Tarasovka, it is likely that the movement will be towards the Pokrovsk grouping. The goal is to close the entire pocket with 12 villages and a total area of 180 square kilometers. It is clear that for the Russian military command, this is much more important than storming another city because the area here is larger, 180 square kilometers, and in principle, this pocket needs to be closed, especially since it is from this area that Horlivka is being shelled. As for Konstantinovka, Russian troops will continue to slowly encircle it, which, by the way, is already happening. From one direction, the north, from Stupochki, there are 6 kilometers left to the city from Russian positions, and from the east, from Belaya Gora, there are 8 kilometers. That is, the slow encirclement of the city from two sides is already underway. That's the situation for now. On the Kursk direction, as of the morning of January 8th, Cherkasskaya Konopelka and Fanasievka are under AFU control. Southeast of Sudzha, where the AFU launched an attack towards Ulanok, Cherkasskaya Konopelka 2 days ago, the situation is developing not in favor of the Russian armed forces. The AFU, having managed to gain a foothold in the plantations north of Cherkasskaya Konopelka in the first half of January 7th, established control over it by the end of the day. According to available data, there are no Russian armed forces units in Fanasievka either. This success allows the AFU to attempt to clear the remaining part of Makhnovka and the plantations to the south, and then advance towards Plekovo. In this case, all the successes achieved by the Russian armed forces in this area since September will be nullified. For now, the Pesel River can be considered a natural barrier, but in the event of a strike from the Sumy region, which is quite possible, it will not be an obstacle. Thus, new opportunities are opening up for the AFU. How well they can take advantage of them will be shown by the development of events. I continue to closely monitor the situation in this area. Novopavlivka direction, as of January 8th, battles for Andreevka and Konstantinopol. Despite the AFU's attempts to hold Andreevka and the reserves they have thrown into the battle, units of the 114th Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade of the Russian Armed Forces continue to gradually advance in the village. The center is already under Russian control. Yesterday, battles began for the western part of the settlement. The northwestern part of Andreevka remains under AFU control. In other areas, individual groups of Ukrainian military personnel remain in basements. But the organized defense of the village has already been effectively destroyed. Intensive attacks also continue in the area of Razliv and Konstantinopol. According to Ukrainian sources, the situation for the AFU here is extremely difficult. There are concerns that the weakened covering units may not hold. In the event of a breakthrough, this could lead to the physical encirclement of units of the 46th and 79th Brigades of the AFU. Pokrovsk direction, as of January 8th. Situation overview. Here, we will examine 3 sectors at once, as there are not many separate updates for each individually. Interfluve. Sector, battles are ongoing for the settlements of Zaporizhzhia and Uspanivka. Tactical successes by the Russian armed forces have been recorded in both directions. Pokrovsky sector, fighting continues for the settlement of Udakna. The Russian armed forces are conducting attacks, but the enemy is still holding its positions. Attacks are also taking place near the settlements of Zverev, Chunishina, and Lisivka. East of the Pokrovsk agglomeration, battles are ongoing for Yelizavetivka, and preparations for active operations are underway near Toretsk. Thus, all three sectors remain tense, with intense combat operations ongoing. Toretsk, Konstantinovka direction on February 8, 2025. Situation. Active operations continue on the Toretsk, Konstantinovka direction. As of February 8, units have managed to establish control over the Toretskaya mine, which allowed for the announcement of the completion of the operation to clear Toretsk. The city has been officially renamed back to Dzerzhinsk. Currently, there are no organized resistance nodes in the city, but work continues to clear individual areas, including basements. Such operations are standard practice in urban combat and do not affect overall control of the territory. Additionally, the clearing of the settlement Druzhba has been completed, creating conditions for further advancement north of Toretsk. One of the key tasks at this stage is the elimination of the pocket between Toretsk and Chasov Yar, which will enhance the security of Horlivka from potential strikes. Simultaneously, work is underway to strengthen the rear and prepare flanks for possible continuation of operations in the direction of Kramatorsk. The situation remains tense but under control.